Hello, good viber. Now, good viber. Let me be honest and just say it's Mindset Monday. It's Mindset Monday. It's the time of the week that we get our mindset right. What is good, beautiful soul? How are you doing? So, I just wanted to start off by saying that it's where this is a crazy life we're living in. We're all players playing in this play, this field of creation where we all have our roles, and it's great. It's freaking amazing. But with that being said, I gotta be honest with you. It's been brought to my attention that we didn't really get all of the lines to our roles to play, and I'm freaking out because I'm like, what does that mean? Good viber, what does that mean? Well, it actually is a great thing. It means that we get to make our own story. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, I just wanted to start off by sharing some personal experiences that are the fuel for this video today. And it all started when I was, doing some branding research. I love branding. I love the whole idea of what brand is and how we use brands to share services and deeply connect with one another, find a sense of community, all that stuff, cool stuff. Now, for whatever reason, I was listening to a brand strategist. Don't remember, but the Future had a great podcast episode with them. And when I do remember, I'll link stuff below. But anyways, let me move this. Let me just move this. Saw how that Oh, sorry. I'm just playing with myself. That's what she said. Anyways, the brain is going on a different train on the tracks today. Let's get back on track. So I was listening to this brand strategist, and they were talking about some amazing things. But mostly what stuck was this idea that you create the game that you play. When you create a business, you create the service, you create the person in your mind that you're serving, and you create the path for them to follow. You create all of this. You create the idea that you want people to remember you by. So this was really interesting. I really started thinking about this. Life is a game. If you don't know this already, guys, we're playing a game. It's an amazing game. And the graphics are amazing. The bodysuits that we in are amazing. And it's an amazing experience. But nonetheless, it is a bit of a game in terms of, it is what it is, guys. It is a game. We're playing here. We're enjoying the game. We have different goals that we want to reach. We have different missions, different quests, different parts that we're all here trying to find out that mission. But anyways, so this idea of the story. Every good game has a good story. Even the games where you create your own story, those are also pretty cool. So what about your story? Now, again, sharing personal story time. Why this was all fueled in the first place is because after that I really started thinking, okay, so life is a game. I've been, my whole life kind of trying to figure out, okay, this is a game. What's the game? I've been trying to Google. I've been trying to look up all these things. Okay, what's the game? How do we play the game? Not even thinking for a second that, what if I am the one creating the rules for the games? Now, don't hate the play, I hate the game. But, if you take accountability for the game that you're playing by structuring it as so, then is there anything really to hate? Anyways, so that really came into my mind. We can either play their game or we can create our own. Who's they? All right, next part. This idea of a story. Now, sometimes when I'm confused and I don't know what to do, what decision to take, whether it's with my future career path or school or how to interact with a friend or potential partner, I use a random word generator a lot to help me with my decisions in life. And that's just because I feel like, well, God, communicate to me. Tell me what's going on now. Esther, stop doing that, because God every single time has been like, make your own choices, Esther. Figure it out. Label it as you will and move on. So this idea of a game, this idea of creating your own story, this is what we're really getting into. And this is a mindset shift for this Monday that I hope will catapult more growth for us all as we continue. And it's a big part of taking accountability for what you choose to do in life and setting up a story for your own success. Now, as a brand strategist, I encourage my clients to create a story for their brand. And that means, okay, so you created this fashion company. Why? What's the story behind it? Because people don't buy things. They buy experiences. You bought your game console to experience the game. You didn't buy it to look at it and say, this is pretty cool. Look at what happens when I turn it on. And look what happens when I turn it off. I mean, for the most part, it's the experience that you're buying. So when it comes to a brand, it's the same thing. What is the story behind your service? For many people, once they actually get to this part of, okay, well, I started this clothing company because I wanted to make money. And I like, making clothes. I think it's cool. I get to wear my own merch. But then they get a little deeper and they say, well, I really started this because I wanted to inspire others when I was depressed. And what helped me through my depression was anime. And here are some of my favorite characters, and I wanted to make clothing based off of them. See the experience? Now it's just, there's something backing up everything that you do. It's not like you're mindlessly making clothes that doesn't have a theme in mind or a particular person that you're connecting to. And we can apply this, I think, to so many things. It's hard to go through life without having a story in mind, your own story. And we do have stories. A lot of these are limiting beliefs. These are stories that we tell ourselves to keep ourselves set where we are. And I know that I'm no different. Sometimes I say, well, I can't do that because honestly, the story of being a broke college student was something that I had noticed. And it isn't always necessarily true, and it isn't always something that you want to follow through with. But if you don't identify the stories that you're telling yourself, then you can never actually go through with identifying, oh, okay, this is what's unconsciously happening in my subconscious that is kind of governing all my actions. I'm going to close the door, okay, Jedi? Thank you. Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, all right. So, stories are great. They're a good way to have somewhat focus, or at least understand the focus of where your mind is at in that moment. I realized that I had a lot of stories, understanding that, okay, I'm here for a reason, and that reason is to just be present with everything that is, then we're in a good place. So we're still working on the whole idea of the story and like playing around with it and figuring out, okay, what are we here? Maybe, or I'll continue with the story and it'll be a new chapter, a new book. But for now, I realized that, okay, the end is that I'm gonna die. That's the end of the story. So I don't have to worry too much about everything else. All I have to do is think about, and I could think, okay, when I die, what do I want people to remember me by? Which I think is a great exercise that everybody should try out. Just thinking, okay, who's at your funeral? How do they feel about you? What did you do for them to feel that way? All of those things, I think it's cool to think about and to reflect on, so you can kind of think, okay, that's the ending of my story. But let's not get lost in the sauce here. Let's try to stay present. Let's try to be present with the page that we're on, knowing that as we continue, we can't go back. Sure, technically we can read back these pages, but once we write it down, it's down. So that's the biggest thing I think right now. I'm trying to focus on figuring out, what story am I telling myself? Why am I telling myself this story? And how can I trust that I'm doing exactly what I need to do in this play of life? And I know the more that I trust myself, the more that this will just be a part of who I am. We're all just living this life, trying to figure out what's our story, what's the narrative, what's going on. And so I can say that I don't have to think about it too deep. I see everything in life, everything that I perceive as a part of the story. Everything. It's not just me. I'm maybe the main character of my own story or play, but I am but a side character in your own story. I am but a messenger that is connecting with you for this moment to give you this information so that you can go on and be aware of the story that you're creating. Some of the things that are in my story right now that are cool, the people are amazing. They have helped brought so much light into my own understanding of life. And I want to continue to connect with people because I want to bring light this ginormous story of life that we all know that we're playing on. There's so many different narratives, right? Like, oh, the world's going to come to an end. Oh, this is going to happen. Oh, New World Order, all of these things. And it's like, wow, this is such a cool story that we get to be a part of. Guess what? We're writing the story right now. Whether you believe that our ancestors passed it down for us so that we could understand the story that we're in and how it plays out in the cycles of life, or however you want to perceive it, it's pretty darn cool. And life is pretty darn cool. And every single, even the butterflies that you see flying, or even the flies that you see, or the spiders, they all are living their own story. And they all, when we get to interact with them, we get to connect in that page. So being present with that, I think, is the most important thing. And making your story as exciting or as fun or as daring, if you like horror, if you like comedy, if you like romance, being aware, hey, it's time for you to write your story. Nobody's going to write it for you. Sure, people can give you suggestions, but at the end of the day, you're the one making the actions. You're the one that's paying attention to these things that will be put down in your story. That only you, with your memory, with your access to the experiences that you have, can look back on and read. So enjoy the process of making the story. Be aware that there's going to be fun times in the story. There's going to be rough times in the story, but that's what makes a good story. That diversity of experience really gives you the full experience. And this is not to discourage anyone to disassociate or belittle their lives to nothing more than a story, but us as humans connect through these stories. We always have, through oral tradition and song, dance, acting, music. Being able to share this story is what we're all here for. And I think we all can say that it's time to turn this new page as we turn, and to be aware of what we're writing down, to take hold of our subconscious and what we deem appropriate to manifest or experience in our own story. You have so much power when it comes to what you want to manifest in this world and what you want to experience. Again, people can suggest things, they can show you things, and sure, that will have a part in your story, but it's up to you as to how many chapters that part gets. So as for me, I'm really starting to understand this more, and that's why I wanted to make this video, to kind of share that I am by no means perfectly mastering the art of story making and making my story and making a game for me to play in this world and understand. But I wanted to share this because I'm starting to be more aware, and I wanted to let you know that we're all out here, we're all making our stories, we're all doing the best that we can with where we're at, and you are the star of your own story, of your own show. And only you can show yourself that entirely. We all are going through our own hero's journey, and it's always a blessing to connect and be able to understand that. There's so much more in store, but let's have patience and let's trust that we are exactly where we need to be in this story as we continue. You are experiencing everything for a reason.